right, guys, now I am joined by U.S. national team head coach Matt Lindland. Matt, what's happening?
Chael, doing good, buddy. Doing well.
Hey, hey, I got to get into something with you. We're coming off the heels of the NCAAs, and I got to tell you, as a fan, I get a depression, man. I feel like the post-day blues, the hangover when it's over, but it's different this year because that qualified. You win the NCAAs, you qualify for the trials. The trials are we 2 weeks away, and you got two guys, Colton Schultz and Taylor, by the way, Lamont, two Greco guys you must have been pretty proud of over the weekend.
Yeah, I thought they did outstanding. It was great to see them get a chance to compete. And I feel like, the guys that had opportunities to compete could perform really well because they didn't lose that opportunity to get overseas, get competition. I felt like when we headed over to Rome, it was kind of like our first time in over a year. It's literally been a year since, it was 15 days to flatten the curve. And a year later, we're still talking about this.
Sure. So let's go back to heavyweight. Let's look at Colton Schultz, because I got to tell you, as a fan, I'd have to go back, Matt, to about 2000, maybe even 98, to find a time that the heavyweight class was the perennial class. Do you remember this division? Okay, I'm going to go back, but you'll remember when Brock Lesnar, Stephen Neal, Jason Gleesman were all in the same. I mean, you got an Olympian in a weight class with a guy that goes on and wins 5 Super Bowl and Pro, and then you got Brock Lesnar in there. It was just one of those things where heavyweight was so featured. And then this year, you got Mason Paris. Mason Paris is as good of a heavyweight as you're going to come across. You got Gable Steveson. You got Colton, who might go on to be the Olympian, all in the same class.
And that Cassiope kid ain't bad either.
Yeah. Well, hey, all of them. He'll figure out of Wisconsin always had my attention. A little bit smaller heavyweight, but he wrestles all the age group stuff. He's a real supporter of USAW, so I followed his career. I mean, when you start talking about these guys, the Klerkovic, I can never say his last name, the Penn State kid. He's got a world championship, Matt. He was barely an All-American. He's got a world championship.
It's a different style, Chael. But it is wrestling. It is competing, and guys that know how to compete well typically perform well at all styles.
Sure. So as you're starting to look forward to the trials, Alana would be a great example. The gentleman from Cuba. Am I saying his name right? Alan?
Alan.
Okay, Alan. But that would be a great example. If we were back at Quad and you and I were visiting, we never would have discussed our projections, for 2021 and been able to put him in the mix. We hadn't even met him yet. So it's one of these things where it goes very quickly, but we're about to figure this thing out.
Well, I've known Alan pretty well since 2015 when John Anderson beat him at the Pan Am Games when we won the first Pan American Games title since I think it was 1975. That was our first time winning the Pan American Games, and that helped that John Anderson took out Alan Vera at that juncture. And then when he defected in 2016, we had our qualifier down in Texas, and Alan decided just to stay in America.
Wow.
And we've been trying to get him a citizenship ever since. And he's been really, a great supporter of Team USA. He's come to a lot of camps. Almost every time I've invited Alan, he's made himself available to come help our athletes prepare for world championships or Pan Am Games or Pan Am championships. Even our qualifier last year about this time in 2020, when we got the first 4 weights qualified, he was a part of all those camps. So we've known Alan for quite a while. We know how talented he is, and but he's going to be in for a fight. We got some really good guys at 87 kilos.
Oh yeah, no, I would never make believe that that's a foregone conclusion. And I mean, Joe Rao just comes to mind, but Joe Rao's never just given anything away. I mean, just by one example. I mean, these guys are about to go, and the world has been a little bit strange, particularly the world of wrestling. And USAW did everything right to comply, to follow the rules, but to still have some structure. I'm just referring to the National Open, by the way. The National Open that we recently held looked different than most opens, but we got a lot of new faces, Matt. We had a lot of guys spring into opportunity that are now going to be eligible to do something with that in a couple of weeks.
Well, we got this weekend. We've got the last chance where two guys are going to get their shot at being at that Olympic qualifier and have an opportunity to make the team. And I shot you over the email list and just said, look at the depth of the guys that haven't even qualified yet. We got some real studs in there. I mean, that kid Alex Thompson at 60 kilo from Nebraska. I mean, he won the senior nationals. Like you said, it wasn't, we didn't have Army there. We didn't have Marines there, some of our top guys, but it was still a national championships. And we had a lot of talented athletes there. And this young man came in and really impressed the whole scene. I mean, he was very talented in that outing in December.
Speaking of that, Matt, I've noticed that you've got a ton of support, specifically from two universities, but it's kind of surprised me. I just wonder if there's a backstory on this. Nebraska has really entered their guys. You talk about the Open, you talk about the Greco scene, they've really embraced it, and Arizona State. And that one was a surprise for me. Arizona State and Zeke Jones, they love to wrestle. They get as many matches as they can, but they've never embraced as a team Greco-Roman like they have in this last year. Do you agree?
Yeah, they definitely have some guys stepping up and wrestling Greco. They sent some guys to that event. And the backstory, you want to know the backstory? Yeah. If you got an All-American, you got a redshirt year before NCAA decided to not count this year. So I think the idea that Coach Snyder had was, it looks like there's a little less depth in the Greco brackets. Maybe we'll send some guys there. But, I've known Alex for a long time, Peyton, Rob. I mean, those guys are Greco guys that Nebraska recruited. And, the year before, when Brian Snyder said, he sends me a text, he says, "Oh, hey, guess what? We signed Rob. What am I supposed to say? Congratulations. We were recruiting him too." Like, well, good for you. Thanks. Like,
you beat me.
You
got me.
Rub it in, Snyder. Then he follows up with, "Well, I want to get him at camps." And I said, all right, here's my dates. He goes, "Well, next year. I got to get him on campus for a year." And the next year he was at the freestyle junior trials. So that was a little frustrating, but to see him back in December, but that's an athlete I don't see on that last chance roster too. So
sure.
Maybe he's a little tired from the season this year.
Let me ask you a freestyle question if you would happen to have heard the answer, but Spencer Lee goes out. Spencer Lee is a complete contender at 121 pounds for freestyle, but he comes out, he announced that he's got two torn ACLs right now. One happened in the Big Ten finals, one happened in the NCAA finals. Question becomes, can he be ready to go in 2 weeks? I'm just wondering, are you hearing any rumors of that? Is that something he even wants to do? Where's Spencer's head at?
You know what? I didn't even, I mean, I follow Spencer, but just because he's a talented guy and one of our top freestyle wrestlers, in the country. But I didn't even know he tore it in the Big Tens,
yep.
Let alone another week later at the NCAA tournament. So 2 torn ACLs. I would assume he's going to be out for a quad.
Yeah, I would have to think that too, but it's hard to do. If you already wrestled on it once, if you can do, I mean, right, it's one of these things. What does Lee have to prove right now? In fairness, nothing. He is very eligible for the next quad. The other side of it is, he won the Open. He teched Tomasello in the finals. He's one of the guys that is going to matter. And I don't know. I don't know if he's willing to sit it out 4 years.
Yeah, that college wrestling sure takes a toll on the body. I mean, you remember.
Sure. Oh no, I fully agree. And then here,
I guess I don't have an ACL, and probably happened in college. I got an MRI, and my doctor said, "Oh, when did you lose your MCL?" And I was like, "Well, you're the doctor. You should probably know better than I do."
Yeah, you tell me what it looks like. Did you see this kid, Matt? I would go AJ Ferrari, but I will go as far. He's the greatest gift wrestling's ever had. I mean, I'm a little premature on that. I just got exposed to him. But, man, I was watching things at the NCAA. I've never sat around to hear a post-fight interview before. I made everybody in the living room shush and turned the TV up. I want to hear this kid. I've never sit and watched the antics, but there was something very entertaining about him. Turns out he's a straight-up badass. But did you watch this Ferrari, and if so, what'd you think?
Yeah, the kid's a straight-up badass. No question. He's got charisma, he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of charisma. And I think he's going to be a star and potentially the first 5-time NCAA champion.
How does that work? Hey, I just
Huh?
got asked this question, and somebody was asking me, because you could be a 5-time champion, you could be a 5-time All-American. How does that work? I thought with I mean, you got to start me way back on step one, but I thought with the pandemic and the way they did that year, it only extended to seniors. But I'm missing something. Everybody gets a year?
No, this year just didn't count. Whatever happened this year, you didn't lose an eligibility year, you didn't gain one. It's just like, we're just going to give you this year. But I know that there is a thing in NCAA's, because you see a lot of guys wrestle 4 years, get their degree, and then they get a 5th year as well when they go do a master's program at another school. Kevin Beasley comes to mind. He was at
Sure.
Old Dominion, went to
Michigan.
after that, and got a 5th year. And so, yeah, I guess it is possible. We've never seen anybody do it.
Sure, but with the 5th year, if I'm wrong, with the 5th year, but it's still only 4 to compete, isn't it? Or the NCAA does have something if you're hurt and you competed less than 20% where you can. Okay, that's true. But you're talking about championships. That's totally different. Postseason, 5 postseasons, that's never happened. I'm into it, by the way.
Never.
But you just
Never
taught me
happened.
something. I didn't know this. So let me make sure I have this right. So you said this year doesn't count. So that doesn't mean you have to be a senior. By example, if you're a freshman, you come back next year, you can call yourself a freshman again?
I don't know if you're still a freshman, but yeah.
Okay.
You get 5 chances to win the tournament.
Okay. So Iowa had a few guys. Ironman, I know you're close to the family. Marinelli, they call him the Bull, and then also Spencer Lee. They all went on social media. They all said they're coming back. But what happens if you graduate? What happens if you're on track? I'm asking you NCAA questions that I do not expect you to have the answers to, but this is my chance to learn something here. What happens if you graduate? Do you have to sign up and take post-grad classes? You must have to be enrolled in the university in some fashion to represent the wrestling program.
Chael, I don't know
Yeah.
these answers, but I
No
would
one does.
imagine you're right. You do have to probably start a master's program, and good for those athletes, to get that opportunity to get another year, paid for, and, come away with a master's degree.
And Matt, where are we at with Stanford wrestling? I know one of your heavyweights, who's also a heavyweight there, got real involved. I know Stanford just had this remarkable year, not only with the champion, by the way. I mean, you saw Abbas did a great job, and they had a couple of other guys that were right in the hunt. I mean, Stanford matters. They raised the money, Matt, and the school, as I'm understanding it, is telling them this was never about money. And the wrestlers at one point were saying, well, then just tell us what it is about. What is it we need to do? School said, we're not even going to have that meeting. Wrestling's done, and it was this real cold. It was this real straight-armed approach, at least at one point. Have things changed?
I have not heard anything different. I have not heard that Stanford wrestling is going to save anything. I think they made a decision, and Stanford, for such an elite school, if they were a country, they would have been like one of the top 5 countries to win medals at the Olympics in 2016, because they have so many international athletes that come to Stanford, compete and train there and go to school there, and then they go represent their country, whatever that is, in swimming, track, and all these different sports. They would have been in the top 5 for medalists if they were a country. Is that insane?
Yes, that is insane.
And they're dropping, not just wrestling. There was a few other sports. I remember men's gymnastics, which a lot of schools have dropped recently. At least, I mean, they were dropping those back when I was in college in the 90s. So,
but Matt, you worked in college programs for at least 5 years there when you were at Nebraska and still competing. You know a little bit of how that works, and so do I. It largely comes to, can we afford it? And that's always the cold side, where the school goes, look, we're not looking to take an opportunity from somebody. We simply can't afford it. We had to make some tough decisions. That's not what's happening at Stanford. They went out and found the funding. And by the way, they were a club program. I mean, they're used to self-funding. I'm just curious, what is going on? Do we have to get the U.S. Senate involved?
Title IX issue?
But Matt, are the wrestlers going about it wrong, and they're trying to talk to the athletic director when they need to go talk to Nancy Pelosi or some other representatives in California? Let's give them, they got $20 million raised. You can get a meeting with the U.S. Senator.
But I mean, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I think it was 12, but they hit the number. I knew that.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. I only bring that up because a lot of people are going to watch this, and I want to see where all this goes. Matt, you get so much credit for being wrestling coach and for what you did in wrestling, but there was a break in there where you went ahead and became the best MMA fighter in the world. Do you still follow? Do you follow the Bellators, the UFCs? Are you seeing some of these top guys?
Thank you, Jill, for recognizing that. And yeah, I watch it. I love that sport. I love combat sports, and and I think men need to do combat sports. Whatever that is, boxing, wrestling, jujitsu, or MMA. I think that until Jesus comes and we don't need to fight anymore on this earth, I think we need to learn how to struggle, especially our young men. They need to learn how to, overcome adversity and struggle and make those sacrifices. And all those things come with fighting. So, as far as watching the sport, it's evolving, isn't it? These guys are
Sure.
getting better and better and more creative. And the longer the sport's been around, the better athletes are going to be. And we're seeing, sports science is improving, nutrition's improving, sleep, all those performance factors that help those athletes, get to that highest level. But the creativity and the artistry is really what I've been appreciating.
And man, I'm convinced that if you're a fight fan, you're a wrestling fan. If you're a fight fan, you like Greco-Roman, but you might not know it. You might not know that about yourself. Perhaps this hasn't been explained, or perhaps we didn't get something in front of you where we could break it down and show you to your word combat, because that's how I see it too. Somebody else come up with the rules. We're doing combat here. And Ben Provisor, specifically why I ask you this question, but one of your guys, last 2 Olympic teams, going to make his bid in a couple of weeks for a third one, but he's openly said, I want to go into MMA. Do you have other guys that have identified that as a goal? Some names that maybe you can get in front of and we can keep our eye out for?
Well, specifically, I know Patrick Downey, kind of the black sheep of the freestyle team.
Yeah.
You know, I got a chance to chat with him and visit with him.
Yep.
I always enjoy that guy.
Me too. Same boat. Love him.
He's entertaining. He's I think he's had a little tough upbringing. Came from the wrong side of the tracks kind of kid, but what a pleasant young man most of the time, to tell you the truth. But fun to visit with. I know he's very interested, and he's been doing a lot of training. I knew Spieler was going that direction. Then he blew out his ACL again. Talking about torn up bodies. I think his MMA career is probably not going to start. Or ended before it really even got started. I've spoke to a lot of guys if that's their future, but a lot of them are so single-minded focused right now, especially right now with the Olympics on the horizon. We had Chris who went out to Bellator, and he's out training with Uriah's club down there.
Honeycutt
Gonzalez. He's in Bellator now.
Okay. Are you talking Honeycutt? You just said Chris. Chris. What's the last
Gonzalez.
Name? Oh, of course. Okay.
Yeah. He was a world team member.
Yep.
Thought he was going to make another run for 2020 team, and young enough, talented enough guy. But he decided to make that jump a couple years early, and undefeated right now, doing great stuff out there. But no big names that I know of. You're going to see some pretty good monsters at heavyweight at the Olympic trials. I mean, there's a few of those guys, man. I could definitely see them doing it and doing it well, competing. Remember how often I tried to recruit Tolly Thompson to go do Greco?
Yes.
Or go do MMA? Like, weren't we up in Denver? And
yes. Against Ron Waterman. Matt, it was to fill in and take on Ron Waterman. I remember it perfectly. We were at dinner and you were calling him up and said, come on, Tolly, get out of here. He was on the fence for about 20 minutes.
I know. I was like, dude, just double leg him and freaking punch him.
That's all you got to do. By the way, where is Tolly nowadays? I mean, that's a name from wrestling past. What a guy. You talk about a guy his whole life, Cadets Jr. It was called Espoir back then. I mean, you want to talk about a guy with a lot of stop signs on his wall. Where is Tolly Thompson?
Still in Cedar Falls out there in Iowa. Farming. He's a big time real estate investor out there, doing great. I think his youngest just started college last year.
Oh, wow.
He's got 3 girls, and they're all college athletes playing volleyball, and he's doing great. He's doing really well.
Let's stay on heavyweights real fast. I'll tell you somebody I'm grateful. If I saw the guy, Adam Kuhn, I would thank him. Adam, thank you for staying and doing this. And the reason I say that, I'm talking about the Olympics, he's one of those guys that has a lot of other options. He's a very curious guy. I mean, he's got a degree in the what nuclear physics or something, right? I mean, this guy's pretty impressive, and I know that he has an
Aeronautic
opportunity.
engineering, but
Say it again,
enough.
Matt. Say it again. What's it called?
Aeronautic engineering.
And aeronautic, I couldn't spell aeronautic, and I'm not a dumb guy. I couldn't spell aeronautic. He's got a degree in it. The only reason I bring that to you is this is a guy with, again, a lot like Tolly, a lot of success, a lot of options. What do you, Adam, what do you want to do? And I don't know, I haven't asked him, but I don't know that another quad is in him. But we got him for this one. He's got a silver medal. He matters. And he's going to have a fight on his hands, whether it's with Mitchell, whether it's with Robbie, whether it's with Colton. Heavyweight is far from decided in this country as I see it.
Oh yeah. Heavyweight is, I mean, there's some guys we can make some guesses. You know, they just competed a couple weeks ago in Rome, and I mean that was a pretty high scoring match. I think it was 4-6 for heavyweight. You know, we see a lot of 1-1, 2-1s at that weight category, but there was a lot of scoring in that match. And
no, Matt, what match are we talking about? Something specific or just the final?
Just in Rome, Colton and Adam both competed against one another. They drew each other first round. We went all the way to Rome.
Oh, I didn't know that. This one went under my radar. Flo must not have covered that. I didn't hear about this match. So Colton and met up with Adam Kuhn. Score was 6-4. Who had the 6? Who had the 4?
Adam won that match 6-4.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Hey, that is telling.
That was the Rome ranking event.
Sure.
And you know those ranking events accumulate points for. Now they actually seed the top 4 guys at the World Championships.
Okay.
And so that's seeding for 2021 World Championships. How odd is that we're going to have an Olympic Games and a World Championships just a couple months apart?
I love it. I love it. And by the way, when you talk about a seeding for the World Championship, so it's not unique to the individual. The country gets a seed? Is that how that must work?
You are correct.
Okay. So whoever the country puts forward falls in.
I'm sorry. The country can send whoever they want, but only those points stay with that athlete.
Oh, all right. Okay, so if that athlete that has them and he doesn't qualify, those points go away. Somebody else is eligible to take the spot.
Correct.
I halfway get that, and that halfway annoys me. But you just talk. I'm learning something. I halfway like that, though. I must admit, there's a part of that makes sense.
Well, they've never seeded the World Championships up until last year, and that was the first time they attempted this seeding criteria, and it seems pretty good. I mean, to separate your 4 best guys, you know.
Yep. All right, I won't put you on the spot to talk about your guys and your team, but I know you're a wrestling fan and you'll be at the trial. So let me just ask you a little bit of a broader question. Which are you more excited to see? A potential Jordan Burroughs versus Kyle Dake, or a potential Jaden Cox versus Kyle Schneider?
I knew. I mean, that's
they're the two, right?
One. I knew you were going those two. That's a hard pick, man. That is really a tough pick. It's going to be fun to see. I guess I'm going to go with Cox and Snyder.
Yeah. And Matt, I'm many ways that same way, and I realize that's not the first time those guys have touched each other, but it's the first time in a while. I mean, there's a lot of it that does feel like parody in a new match, particularly if you look at the resumes. I think for me, that's the one as well. And if we get those matches, by the way, we're going to get them up to 3 times and a minimum of 2, right? I mean, those are only going to happen if the guys advance to the finals. For wrestling fans, Matt, we're going to have a lot of fun in a couple weeks.
Oh my goodness. Are you going to be in Texas? Are you coming?
I'm hoping. I have the dates, but I was planning on going out to Penn State, but I had something else to do in that side of the country. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to Texas. I haven't given up on it, but don't save me a seat.
All right. Well, Haluska's already out there. He's out there a couple weeks early, just waiting for it to start.
No way. Honestly? He went 2 weeks early.
His brother's out in Texas, and they're visiting, and he's gonna make his trip home after the trials.
Oh, that's awesome! Shout out to Coach Haluska. A nice name for you to bring up, Matt. I got nothing else for you. You got anything else you want to get off your chest? I appreciate you coming on and visiting. And if I could just let the fans know while they're tuned in, we're gonna be back here every single Monday through the games. We're gonna be doing more of this. Please come back, everybody. Please tell a friend. Coach Lindland, anything else to get off your chest?
Chael, thanks for visiting. It's always been a pleasure. We got that mentor project starting up, and I think I was a mentor to you, and probably still am at some level. How did I do?
Awesome. We're still here together. Started when I was 17, Matt. We're still here together. So I'd say you did pretty good.
All right, buddy. We'll talk later.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. See you all next Monday.